Good evening, everyone. Today is Monday, November 22nd, 2021, and we are here at the Transportation Commission meeting, and we are all joined virtually. My name is Bridget Obikoya, and I am the Transportation Commission staff liaison. This meeting is being recorded, so please turn your mics off when you are not speaking. Before we start the agenda items tonight, are there any citizen comments on matters not on the agenda? Hearing none. Okay, I will turn it over to Chairman Slatt with the first agenda item, which is the speed cameras request to advertise with Christine Baker.
Great, thank you, Ms. Obakoya. Before we get started with that item, I just want to say real quick, Commissioner Darren Buck, who has been a huge asset to the commission and great help, submitted his resignation from the commission just a couple weeks ago. He is largely moving out of state, and I just wanted to thank him for all of his many contributions to the commission. He was a great voice for safer streets, and he will be difficult to replace and sorely missed on the commission. With that said, go ahead, Ms. Simpson, and take it away with that agenda item.
I'm sorry, is it the speed cameras item?
Yes.
Okay, sorry. You said Ms. Simpson, so I was confused, but I'll pull it up now. This is Christine Baker with Transportation Engineering and Operations. And let me get this into presentation mode. All right, so we are asking tonight for your support as we move forward towards board action on photo speed monitoring devices in work zones and school zones. All right, so we'll go through a quick introduction of what photo speed monitoring is, what the efficacy rates are, and how Vision Zero and the police practices recommendations all tie in to speed cameras. And then we'll just go over our proposed ordinance and the estimated timeline. So photo speed monitoring, also known as speed cameras, I'll refer to it that way throughout the presentation, is recently allowed for in Virginia. And speed cameras use radar to track and to ticket people who are driving over the speed limit. A police officer does have to review the footage afterwards to confirm that the person was speeding, and then they issue the ticket by mail after. So it was in the 2020 General Assembly session where Virginia passed that legislation, and speed cameras are allowed currently in school zones. So that's an area within 600 feet of a school access point, or work zones, which the state code calls a construction area on or beside a highway and marked with warning signage. So the key is that these areas have to be designated with certain signage, and we can place speed cameras in those zones. And the state code does specify there has to be 100, or there's a $100 maximum on the penalties for speed camera citations. If you're not speaking, could you please mute? I'm getting an echo. Citations are civil rather than criminal in nature, so that way they don't count towards points on a person's driver's license. They are not considered for insurance purposes. And in terms of placement, there has to be a warning sign posted in advance of that camera, letting them know, as you can see in the picture here, that a speed camera is coming up very clearly, and the driver must be going 10 miles per hour above the speed limit to get that ticket. So do these work? Yes. We found, nationally, there's lots of documentation and research that points to speed cameras not only reducing crashes, but reducing serious injury crashes, because the slower a vehicle is going, the less likely it is to cause a serious crash. And we also see that, they not only reduce crashes, but they reduce speeds. So the National Transportation Safety Board also recommends speed cameras as a tool, as well as the Federal Highway Administration. And when we look on the local scale, we've also seen lots of success in Montgomery County and the district, where we found that in Montgomery County, speeds dropped 70%, and in DC, 82%. Those are vehicles going 10 miles per hour more than the speed limit. And that was about 6 to 8 months after camera installation. So that's pretty good. Lots of reduction in speed. And then in Rockville, speed cameras reduced crashes by 35% and speeding by 50%. So overall, both nationally and locally, we see that this is a really effective tool. And that's why it was part of the Vision Zero Action Plan. It's specifically called out in the Vision Zero Action Plan, action item B8, data-driven equitable enforcement, because not only do they help control speeds and increase safety, but they do so in an unbiased, equitable, and cost-effective manner. And so in very preliminary pursuit of this, we requested technical assistance from the Metropolitan Washington Council of Governments Regional Safety Program. And that was to develop guidelines for prioritizing and placing school zone speed cameras, once we are legally permitted to do so in Arlington, using data and best practice research. So that will tie in equity and safety and data, so we can help prioritize which schools to place these in first. And you really let the data drive the decision making, which we think is really important. And not only does the Vision Zero program support it, the Police Practices Work Group also does. The Police Practices Work Group recommendations say that automated ticket enforcement helps to improve safety, reduce unnecessary interactions between people and the police, and it just helps to advance that confidence in equitable outcomes, because you reduce or even eliminate with the cameras the possibility of that race or ethnic-based disparity in traffic enforcement. So this is a really important point to help us get towards the Police Practices Work Group recommendations. They did initially recommend a sliding payment scale based on the income levels of violators, but we'll get a little bit more into that in a second with our proposed ordinance. So our proposed ordinance for Arlington that we are proposing to the county board in a request to advertise in December, and then a public hearing hopefully in January. We'll stick with the state code as we have to, limiting to school and work zones, and ensuring that citations are civil rather than criminal in nature, as I mentioned, so they don't count for points or are considered for insurance purposes. The warning signage must be placed well in advance, and drivers must be traveling 10 miles per hour above the posted speed limit. So our code follows all of that. And then in terms of the local details, we decided on a $50 penalty for speed camera citations. And that was because after looking into state law, we aren't technically allowed to do a sliding payment scale that the PPG recommended. So we went back to the PPG, had discussions, and landed on a $50 fine, which is below the $100 state maximum. It is in line with the red camera violation fine, so it creates a consistency there in our automated enforcement program. And then we also plan to have a 30-day grace period after camera installation. So it's not like you get a ticket right away. People have a second to adjust and kind of learn the new system. That will hopefully make it a little more equitable, but also still very effective. And then we also estimate that the cost per year will be about $600,000 for 10 portable cameras. And that includes the installation, operating, the ticketing, and we also need a full-time police employee who can do the review and the citation actually issuing. So it is a cost implication, but it's worth it for safety, and there may be some revenue coming back in from cameras. But the goal of this is truly safety. That's our main goal, and what we are looking forward to seeing the impact. So we're looking at ordinance adoption in hopefully early 2022. And around the same time, we're beginning the school zone placement guidelines that MWCOG project that I mentioned. So we'll be working on that over the next several months. The police department's going to have to procure a vendor, which will take some time. So that may take even all of 2022, which leads us into late 2022, early 23 for implementation of the speed cameras. So it won't be the fastest rollout, but we're going to be moving immediately into that procurement process as soon as the ordinance is adopted, if so. And we'll look forward to taking what we learned from the school zone camera placement guideline project and bringing that directly into our work. With that, I'll open it up for questions and discussion.
Thank you very much, Ms. Baker. Commissioners, if you have questions, go ahead and throw your hand up there. I will just say in general, I am strongly supportive and very grateful to see this finally coming forward. I know there's a lot of hope to get increased ability from the state to put these in additional places, but that in general, the feeling is that if we don't use the authority that we've got, nobody is interested in giving us more authority. So I think in our school zones is a great place to pilot this thing and show that it can really be effective locally, reducing speeds. With that said, Commissioner Lantelmi, go ahead.
Thank you. Yeah, I fully support this also. I can say from my own observations in DC, you're right, they really do work. Driving under Washington Circle along K Street, traffic is really slow going through that tunnel now since they have the speed cameras. The same thing with the Anacostia Freeway and Kenilworth Avenue. Traffic seems to move at speed limit, never above that anymore. It's really a change from the past. I would very much like to see adding to our wish list for the Virginia legislature change would be to allow us to have that sliding scale for fines. The equities on it are such that it really, I think you are absolutely right to try to do it. And I think we need to pursue that. I wouldn't even mind having it in the ordinance that once it's allowed should it be allowed by the state, it would automatically go into effect here. So, I'd like to see something like that if it's possible. Finally, I think that this, even though you're saying it's going to cost $600,000 a year roughly, I think it may actually cost substantially less than that. And I'm not talking about the fines because I don't think fines should be used as a revenue raiser. But the fact that we will be able to free up police time, it costs when we have a police trying to enforce these speed limits out at the various schools. That's time. That's some things that they could be used on something else. So, you're simply on police officer time not being used for this, we could very well come out ahead on it and use our police in ways that they are better trained and better used for. So all around, I think this is a total win, and I will be enthusiastically voting in favor of this. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Lantelmi. Commissioner Raddick, you're up next.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Baker, for this presentation. One of the first things I thought of when I was thinking of tonight's agenda items in my mind preparing earlier was do these things work and do they actually slow speeds down? And so I'm glad you were able to answer that question for me. And I'm just excited that this is Vision Zero is entering its next phase, if you will. I've seen a few months ago, or whenever you spoke with us last, you mentioned that we'll start seeing obvious signs of Vision Zero. I've seen literal signs. I think they're blue. And then there's, of course, the speed limit. You're approaching it. It tells you how fast you're going. Signs that I've seen more of. So I think this is great. And I guess I share Commissioner Lantelmi's view that they should not be revenue and they should be focused purely on the safety benefits. What are you all doing to ensure that that remains the focus going forward?
For moving forward, we are going to be probably hoping, we don't want to be making money off this, right? It's the fewer citations we have, the more we know it's working. So, that's our plan moving forward. We may have a plan where we assess the locations where if a certain, location reduces speed so well, it's working really well. Maybe after a certain point in time, we move it to a location that might need it more because, the nimbleness might really help make it stay effective, which is great. And as far as just making sure it's not a revenue grab, I think everyone's on the same page that this is fully a safety measure, all the way up to the county manager's office. So, we don't have plans to use that revenue, program it anywhere. It's solely about increasing safety on the roads and keeping it that way, really, just keeping that program really effective.
Great, thanks. Ms. Baker, can you talk about, I know one of the main concerns that I hear about with automated enforcement is privacy, because these things take pictures and that sort of thing. Does the county have a privacy policy about this kind of thing? Is that something that we would work out when we're selecting a vendor? Can you speak at all about that side of things?
I understand that with the photo, or it would be very similar to Photo Red, because that uses the same technology. So I believe there's a privacy policy in place with the current vendor, and I imagine that as we move into speed cameras, it would be done so the same. I know that as far as privacy goes within the county, whenever we're dealing with sensitive matters, we redact information, and we have certain drives where certain things can be stored. So I'm sure there will be a safety process or security process protocol, but I can't really speak to exactly what it would be. That would be an ACPD question.
All right, great. Any other commissioner questions or comments at this time? Commissioner Price, go right ahead.
I just wanted to echo most of the comments that have been said. I think this program is very valuable, and I'm very much supportive of it. And congratulations on it. And if there's a process that involves, selecting communities, that involves like an arm wrestling type match, I'm in it for this community that I live in. So I'm in it. So I hope we get something. Fillmore and Lorcum's a disaster. So thanks so much.
Awesome. Commissioner Locker, go ahead.
I just had a quick question. And I also do want to echo that I love that it's, reiterating that it's a safety measure, not a revenue grabber. But you also mentioned the nimbleness of it. And I was just wondering, would other areas within the county be able to kind of request this, as you might see that one of the locations has drastically dropped in speeding, that how would the next location be considered, and would citizens be able to request that it go over to this location? How will that be kind of measured or decided?
So as I mentioned, the MWCOG grant came at a wonderful time where we will be able to work with a consultant to identify criteria that we can use to prioritize the placement of these cameras. And that includes, what the current speeds are, what crash data looks like, what land use characteristics there are, what roadway characteristics there are, what the demographics are, and we can help use that to rank areas that will have the most impact from a safety standpoint as well as from an equity standpoint. And so working with the consultant, we can come up with those criteria and have it really be transparent, where we can show how we're prioritizing and ranking these. And I think we're really going to let the data drive that decision making. I'm not sure, I don't want to have arm wrestling competitions, and I know most people don't want that either. So, it's one of those things where there will be opportunity for community input, but that's not going to be the driver of where these really go. We're going to be using that Vision Zero systems-based, prioritization strategy where we really make our decisions based on where we know we're going to have the most impact from, what we see in our crash data, what we see in our, land use information, things like that. So we don't know exactly what that looks like because that project still needs to begin, but, it's going to be really interesting. And I think we're going to weigh lots of different needs and options as well. So we're, like I mentioned, excited to get started on that. And hopefully that can help drive that program and also the transparency aspect about all of this.
Thank you.
Awesome. Well, I'm about ready to make a motion, but just in case, I have two more things to say, and that'll give somebody else a chance to throw their hand up if they have a question. One is, I think the privacy stuff is really important, and so I would really urge you, as this goes forward and it goes to the board for RTA and goes to the board for the actual public hearing, that you make sure that there is, someone who can speak to that, whether it's from ACPD or somebody at DES comes up to speed. I think it's important that be able to address people's concerns about privacy with having cameras on the streets. And two, I know I have read some research in the past about movable speed cameras and how long that speed drop effect tends to last. And my recollection is that it was other cities' experience has been that it is not super long, something like 3 months, if I remember correctly, and then speeds start to ratchet back up. So I think it's great that they're movable, especially from the construction standpoint and all that sort of thing. But I don't think we should pin our hopes too highly on being able to move these around, shuffling them so much that we get, the effect of 30 cameras only having 6. I don't think we're gonna get there. Great, but seeing no other hands, I'm going to go ahead and say I move that the Transportation Commission recommend that the County Board authorize the advertisement for a public hearing to be held at the January 2022 County Board meeting to consider an ordinance to amend, reenact, and recodify Chapter 14.2, Section 14.2-12A of the Code of Arlington County, Virginia, to permit the use of photo speed monitoring devices in highway work zones and school crossing zones, to issue civil penalties as allowed for in the Virginia State Code, as shown in our draft board report dated November 9th, 2021.
I'll second that.
And seconded by Commissioner Lantelmi. Is there any discussion on the motion? All right, hearing none, I will go down for the vote. Commissioner Brose. Commissioner Brose is not here. Oh, it's not going to work. Commissioner Lantelmi.
Aye.
Commissioner Locker.
Aye.
Commissioner Ludlow.
Aye.
Commissioner Muradovic.
Aye.
Commissioner Price.
Aye.
Commissioner Raddick.
Aye.
Commissioner Yeri.
Aye.
I also vote yes, and I think that is all of my commissioners at this point. Yes, all right, that passes unanimously. Thank you very much, Ms. Baker.
Thank you very much for your support.
Implementation.
Thanks.
Okay, next we have the Pentagon City update with Joanne Gabor.
Thank you. My name is Joanne Gabor. I'm with DES. I know typically you all see me with site and plans, but I've been working on the Pentagon City planning study, and so I'm here to provide an update. So we're actually rounding the corner of getting to board adoption. So where we are right now is the third draft of the plan is going to be coming out this week. We will be going to PC next week on December 1. So the plan will be with the PC distribution, but we also will be updating our website hopefully by Wednesday. The RK&K transportation analysis and associated appendices are up on the website currently for your review. A couple of things I wanted to highlight that are included. One of the big ones is an implementation matrix, but that covers all of the topics. And from a transportation standpoint, we have reduced the SOV mode split goal from 30 to 25%. I know that was a lot of discussion at the last meeting. We have expanded the TDM section of the report and the transit section of the report and pulled a lot more data that we have from the household travel survey that was just completed. One of the concerns we have heard from the community is, are these goals realistic in terms of the mode split? And we do have a lot of data that shows that, and we didn't have a lot of data in the first draft. So we have taken a lot of the data we have, and it is very compelling data, I have to say. to support that. And so we hope that will make the community more comfortable that this is realistic. We do also talk about the TDM and looking at more of a performance-based TDM condition that will have to go through the site plan condition review. So that won't be implemented immediately, but it is something we will be looking at doing as soon as we can. So right now where we are is we are going to the December County Board meeting for RTA. We anticipate going to the February County Board meeting for action. And again, PC is December 1. If you have any non-transportation questions, they would love to answer them there. I could try and fumble through them here. December 2 for Housing Commission. And I encourage you all to look at the plan when it is posted. And with that, that is my brief update, and I'll answer any questions or any other comments anyone has.
Thank you, Ms. Gabor. Is the plan to come back to the commission for action prior to that February board meeting, the
Yes.
February Transportation Commission meeting?
Sorry, I failed to mention that. Yes, we will be back before you.
I never doubted. I just had to double check. And Commissioner Lane, tell me, you can correct me, but I feel like Planning Commission is happy to talk about transportation issues. Isn't that correct?
Oh, absolutely. We will do so.
Awesome. Great.
I will be at the PC meeting as well with Matt Matuzik and my other colleagues, so we will be there to answer any of the questions the PC members have.
And I will be circulating to you, Chair Slatt, so you can send to the rest of the commission the report, that the LRPC report that is being put together that helps focus your reading through the report. The draft update is like 180 pages. It's really long, and even the executive summary is a number of pages, and this might help everybody in getting through it. The transportation section, unfortunately, isn't quite as long as that, but nonetheless, I will send that around. So if anybody does have the interest in looking at it, you'll be able to see it too. We'll have that, of course, at PC.
Yeah, the transportation section now is about 35 pages. And a lot of it, again, is just adding information that either we already had or expanding some of the information, with the bike network, information that has been updated since we last put out a draft as well.
Great. Commissioner Lane, tell me, your hand went back up. Do you have something else?
Yes, because I have one thing. This is a larger issue that I thought this report, the draft report, sort of highlights for me something that we're missing in the master transportation plan. We have, when the MTP was originally created, clearly it was a vehicle-oriented document. We have since added a number of other elements to it. We now have a fairly robust bicycle element in it. We have other things, but what is really missing is all of the pedestrian-only portions of our transportation network. I've been going through the county, and there are almost every neighborhood has at least one county right-of-way, either owned by the county or with a full public easement on it, that is effectively pedestrian only. Some that can have bikes on it, but they're not considered part of the bicycle network. But they are public rights of way, and they are used by pedestrians all the time. The Pentagon City area will have quite a number of those, presumably, as this is developed. We need to have another element in the MTP, which is pedestrian only or pedestrian oriented, something like that, to have them be inventoried and mapped, not just though in Pentagon City, but really throughout the county. We have some that are stairways where streets end, they connect to another one, and because of the topography, they're stairways. And because they're not really mapped, they tend to get forgotten. Even though people use them, they're not maintained properly. I would like to see this added on. This is my editorial. I'd like to see these added to the master transportation plan. Thank you very much.
Commissioner Lynn, tell me, I just want to make sure I'm clear in your question. So I know we do have a pedestrian element, but I think what you're referencing is you would like to see the MTP streets map to include the pedestrian only pathways. I will use as hopefully a neutral term. Is that what you're? Okay.
Exactly. Those rights of way, whether they're owned by the county, and a number of them are, or that they are full permanent easements. So they all really should be included on the MTP. But, yeah, and I agree. You're right. We do have a pedestrian element, but it isn't as robust as I feel it really should be in my explorations of the county.
It's relatively old as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're really missing from the map is the biggest thing.
And that's it. They need to be on the map. Thank you.
Commissioner Ludlow.
Yeah, just I really appreciate Commissioner Lantelmi's comments. With respect to pedestrian, I think the next kind of warp speed leap forward is maybe taking a look at some of the data that are now available to track pedestrians, possibly using LBS, location-based services data from cell phones. This is something that I've seen other consultants using in airport spaces and in other areas, and simply, I'm not prescribing anything per se here. I just know that the data have evolved significantly since the last updates, and it provides the capability for staff to possibly take a deeper look at some of the behaviors and observed behaviors, including potentially even better than some of the micro simulation that are available for pedestrians. So just wanted to add that to the record. I'm happy to discuss that further, other ideas on how to approach that.
Awesome. And I would just say to the commission in general, if this is your jam, stay tuned over the next few years at least. Staff has made it kind of put a stake in the ground and said sometime here in the future, we're redoing the MTP and we're not doing it one mode at a time. We're going to look holistically, which I think is going to be a really exciting opportunity. Because one of the biggest issues I think with the MTP is that some of the elements contradict each other, and some of the there's no real good overarching whole that helps you balance the competing space concerns and operational concerns that we end up with, where doing something for one mode impacts another mode, and how do you make those decisions?
Commissioner Slatt, I just also wanted to mention that the data that I've seen are anonymized. I know we're talking, I said track pedestrians. That probably didn't sound very good. What I meant was track aggregate flows of pedestrians in an anonymized fashion to be able to understand how they're using the facilities in the county.
Awesome. Great. Any other questions for Ms. Gabor on Pentagon City, knowing that we will see them again in February, if not before, for a more detailed look? All right, seeing none, thank you very much, Ms. Gabor.
Thank you.
Thank you. All righty. Next on the agenda, we have Congestion Mitigation and Air Quality Regional Surface Transportation Program, CMAQ RSTP, fiscal year 2028 applications. And this is an information item with Richard Rorsman.
Thank you, Ms. Obukoya. Good evening, commissioners. I actually have two information items, both related to grant programs this evening. The first one, as Ms. Obukoya noted, is the annual request for projects for CMAQ and RSTP. Just a reminder, the process for this is the county submits applications along with all other regional jurisdictions to the Northern Virginia Transportation Authority. They have the administrative task of then compiling those and organizing the funding, sub-regional funding allocations for CMAQ for all of Northern Virginia, but the ultimate arbiter is the Commonwealth Transportation Board in conjunction with review by VDOT and DRPT as needed. This is for fiscal 2028. Things are programmed very far in advance, so think way ahead. In general, there is roughly $60 million coming to the region. About $5 to $6 million of that will come to Arlington and combined CMAQ and RSTP funding in any given year. That number is going down slightly under current conditions. However, that was before the federal reauthorization, which we don't know what the big picture will look like, but we expect to learn more about that as we learn more about the federal bill, what the overall national level and then state levels of reauthorization for those programs are. There's also been some moves at the state level to take a little more off the top at the state level to fund some regional programs that were historically funded through other sources. So, but we're still looking at probably around a $5 million level. Historically, we have focused on a handful of projects with both these funding sources. The TDM program, Arlington County Community Services, being the largest of those. Also, additional monies toward constructing and maintaining and upgrading these county's ITS network, as well as signal optimization and capital bike share. This is an information item. We will come back next month for action. At this point, we're simply coming out to tell you this is coming and repeat the stuff that we've looked at previously. We are happy to take any feedback from the Transportation Commission as to ideas for other uses and projects that would benefit from CMAQ and RSTP. CMAQ, by definition, congestion mitigation, air quality, the projects to be eligible need to improve air quality and mitigate congestion, just like the name says. RSTP is a little bit more flexible. We tend to end up with more CMAQ than RSTP funding on a year-to-year basis, but it can fluctuate. So with that, I will stop and take any questions. And given that we're coming back in a month, I think, and with the holidays coming up, I think we can leave up to a couple weeks for any comments that come in, particularly if there are commissioners who are not here this evening or other things that come to you after the meeting. And again, we're talking fiscal 2028, so look pretty far into the future.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Roisman. Am I remembering correctly that we've used CMAQ for capital bike share expansion in the past?
That's correct. And that is still a very viable project. I think that the expansion of capital bike share is starting to look a little bit different now, and that as we deploy, there's still more stations to be deployed, and I think we have an active project right now using CMAQ funding, but some of that is new stations, and some of that may result in a conversion or acquisition of e-bikes rather than traditional pedal bikes. Still eligible.
Great. So I would certainly speak in support of using CMAQ and RSTP for capital bike share expansion. I think it's a great project. Always in favor of funding Arlington County Commuter Services. They do amazing unsung work. You've never really understood, how Arlington accomplishes what it accomplishes until you've sat down with one of those people who just works with an employer or works with a residential building and teaches people about where the bus stops are near their building and how to buy a bus pass through their employer and everything. They do amazing work. I will reiterate one thing that I've said in the past, which is if the county feels it's important to come forward and ask for CMAQ RSTP money for ITS, I would want a very detailed briefing on exactly what we would be getting for that money, because it is something we have approved in the past that I've never fully understood exactly what it accomplished. There are a lot of buckets that seem to all do ITSE stuff in the CIP, and I've never fully been able to understand how they're different or what we've gotten for our money in the past. So it's just something I'm a little bit suspicious of without a really good briefing. So if that comes forward, I would ask for that from staff. But other than that, I have nothing to say on this. Any other commissioners with thoughts on CMAQ RSTP? Nice light subject that everybody, has lots of opinions on all the time. All right, hearing none. You had a second thing also, correct, Mr. Roseman?
That's right. It's the Northern Virginia Transportation Commission I-66 Commuter Choice Round 5 FY 2023 through 24 applications.
Okay, thank you. This is a different program with a closer in year. So again, a quick refresher. NVTC, the Northern Virginia Transportation Commission, administers two commuter choice programs, one for the I-395 corridor, one for I-66. They are on alternate years. So this time last year, we were talking about I-395. This year, we were talking about I-66. I-66 has been around longer. It is now going through round 5, whereas I-395 has only gone through 2 rounds. For I-66, reminder that the revenue for the program comes directly from the toll revenues collected along I-66 inside the Beltway. First, VDOT takes the revenue to do maintenance and operations of the toll system and the facility. And then after that, the rest goes to commuter choice program. Because of that, under pre-COVID conditions, this program had $30 million per cycle for programming. Estimates given to date by NVTC staff say that they will only have about 12 million for round 5, and that is based on decreased revenues due to decreased travel and decreased toll collection. Same thing, we are looking, coming forth with ideas, although this one we have something already identified by staff to go forward with. It will be the Ballston West entrance. You may remember we came to the TC last month for approval to apply for money to the NVTA in a large sum of $80 million for that. But it's a $140 million project, and we need all the funding sources we can get. We are trying to diversify our funding sources. So we are looking to apply for probably around $4 to $4.5 million of capital funding for that project under this program. We do not have anything else currently identified to apply for the program. In previous years, we have gone for enhanced bus service and some other projects. We are not in a position for this cycle to look for enhanced bus service given the state of transit, and we're trying to get back to pre-COVID normals on the ART system. In addition, other things that have gone for commuter choice programs in previous rounds, such as standalone TDM programs, the guidelines for project evaluation have been tightened by NVTC in the state so that standalone TDM programs are really no longer viable under this program. They can go as an add-on to enhanced transit or other things, but as a standalone program, they really are not competitive under current guidelines. In addition, there is also a request minimum of $250,000. We had applied for some things that were below that level before. Those, again, are no longer viable under guidelines. So let me stop there for a moment. Again, we're looking at Ballston West entrance to $4 to $4.5 million. We'll come back in a month for action. We're obviously open to other ideas as commissioners want to convey them to staff.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Roisman. I think the only thing I would put forward is there's been some conversation in the community about Fairfax Drive, which until a year or two ago was a VDOT road, but is now under Arlington County control, but is number 2 on our Vision Zero high injury network list for fatal and high injury crashes per mile. And there is a lot of I've heard support in the community about a kind of a complete streets project on Fairfax Drive from, Ballston to coming up to Clarendon there by Northside Social. That would, convert the bike lanes to protected bike lanes, improve the crossings. I think there's an opportunity to add some left turn lanes, which might, help with congestion mitigation on Fairfax Drive. And my understanding is, the Ballston Virginia Square Civic Association is quite supportive. So I think that would be a great project. It's clearly benefits the I-66 toll payer, given its parallel nature to I-66, and would be a good option. So I would say that. Commissioner Yeri.
I just want to second everything you just so eloquently said about Fairfax Boulevard or Drive. And that I also support all these things.
Great. Any other commissioners? All right. Seeing nothing else. Is there time if somebody were to have a sudden eureka moment in the next few days to send you additional thoughts, Mr. Roisman?
Absolutely.
All right. Great to hear it. Then I think we can send you home with many thanks for excellent couple of agenda items there. I really appreciate staff. This whole coming early before it's time for action thing has been just absolutely fantastic. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
You too.
Take care. And now we are on to other business. I'd like to mention the 2022 Transportation Commission calendar. We don't have a proposed calendar yet because the county board will confirm and adopt its upcoming year's calendar at the organization meeting, which will be held on January 3rd. But they did issue a draft county board meeting agenda. So January 22nd and February 12th are the upcoming meeting dates. And so I think it's fairly safe to say that January 6th, prior to the 22nd meeting, is firm. And the January 27th proposed meeting for Transportation Commission prior to the February 12th meeting that they proposed is solid. So if we can talk about those two dates and decide. And also I want to note that both of those Transportation Commission dates are prior to the week prior to the proposed Planning Commission dates.
Great. So just double checking, you said that would be January 6th for our January meeting, and then January 27th would essentially be our February
meeting. That is correct.
That sounds great.
Okay.
Any other commission business? Anybody have? Commissioner Brose is not here. I was going to ask her about the Marbella site plan. I will give you a heads up. I've been doing SPRC for the Wendy's residential, essentially the vacant lot there, right there in Courthouse that used to be the Wendy's and the bank that had an office approval, but office isn't going anywhere. And so now there's a residential approval coming forward. That just had its, I believe, second and final virtual SPRC. And staff is talking a lot about a package of multimodal safety improvements as part of the community benefits package for that development, which is great. But there was no detail whatsoever. It was in no way finalized or even in like draft form at SPRC. So I'm afraid we may have to review that carefully at Transportation Commission, because Commissioner Lynn, tell me, correct me if I'm wrong, but that's not going to see another SPRC meeting. Is that right?
I think that's correct, unless they decide to do a third one. But I think that's right. By the way, I think Commissioner Brose is at the Marbella SPRC meeting tonight.
Oh, you're right. Yes,
they ran them concurrently, which I was not happy about. But anyway,
I was asked about it, and I grudgingly agreed that that would be okay, but noted that they should have had our date well in advance, because we adopt our calendar a full year.
We do have a pretty heavy schedule of SPRCs coming up, so I guess I understand it. But yeah, I wasn't happy either.
Commissioner Muradovic, I see your hand up.
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to ask about Penn Place, whether you and Commissioner Buck needed any help with that, how that is coming along. I'm happy to jump in from the bench if y'all need to take a break.
Awesome. Yeah, Commissioner Buck has dropped it and has dropped the commission as he potentially moves to Massachusetts for the most part. Right. Yeah. I'm prepared to go to Penn Place SPRC, but it's a big project with a lot of moving parts. So any thoughts that anybody has on how that's moving forward, I am open to. I think the bike facilities around the edge have made a huge come a long way since the initial proposal. I'm really happy to see Arlington Community High School finding a home at Penn Place. I think the multimodal path through the middle of the site is a lot better than it was. It's much more readable as a pedestrian or a cyclist at the edge. You can kind of tell that you can actually get through the site now, and not that you're just going to end up in the middle of it riding around in circles. And I was pleased to see they expanded the south side sidewalk to, I believe, a 12-foot clear width, given the amount of existing scooter traffic and whatnot that's taking place on that temporary asphalt path that's been there for the last couple of years. But please, I can use all the help I can get on Penn Place.
All right. Sounds good. All right. Thank you.
Anything else for the good of the order? All right. And we have this is essentially our December meeting, correct? We will not meet again until January 6th.
We do have a December 21st meeting.
Oh, we do.
on the
Okay.
books. That is correct.
Do I have that on my calendar?
I have it on my calendar. Let me just confirm that. That's the solstice.
I do not have that one.
I don't have it either.
You don't
I don't
have
have
it
that
on
on
your
the calendar.
calendar. Oh
Nope.
boy.
December 21st?
December 21st.
No, I do not have it on my calendar. I usually put all the invites in, all the dates on my calendar. I don't have that one.
Let me confirm.
Yeah, well, and I'm not sure what corresponding county board meeting it would apply to, because our January 6th meeting should be the one that predates the January board meeting.
Okay. I have here no December 21st meeting. You're correct. I don't know how that ended up in my schedule. So forgive me for that.
No worries. So have a fantastic Thanksgiving.
Can I ask one quick question, Mr.
Please,
Chairman?
go ahead.
Are we going back to in-person meetings in January?
I was told that we have a 30-day window by which we can do that. So if we haven't heard anything within 30 days, we will remain virtual. Since we don't have a December meeting, that remains to be seen. So if I don't hear anything by the next meeting is January 6th, I would say December 6th, I would assume is virtual.
Because you know what tonight would be if we were in person would be perfect for Mr. Chairman.
Yes, I do.
All right. Have a good week. Have a good holiday, everyone.
Yes, everybody, please
Happy
have a great
holidays.
Thanksgiving and happy holidays of whatever you celebrate, and we will see you in the new year.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.